People thought Nola was the luckiest woman alive. She married into wealth. She lived in a mansion. She smiled in public. But what no one knew was that every smile hid pain. And while she suffered in silence, the one person she trusted most was watching. Not with concern, but with envy. Her best friend wanted her life, her marriage, even her husband. What Zara did next crossed a line that could never be undone. Because sometimes, the life you envy is a curse you are not ready to carry. What if the life you envied wasn't a blessing, but a curse disguised in gold? Welcome back, besties. Heartsuit. This story is a unique one. And a true life story. And if you are just joining us, welcome. Please take a seat and do well to like, comment, share and subscribe. And like I always say, subscription is free. People in Makoro district used to say that Nola Adeyemi and Zara Bello were born on the same day, under the same sun, with the same destiny. But destiny, like the ocean, never treats two swimmers the same. They met as children, barefoot and curious, running through the dusty streets of Makoro with scraped knees and loud laughter. Nola was the quieter one. She listened more than she spoke. She smiled easily and cried easily too. Zara was fire. Bold, sharp-tongued, and fearless. Where Nola would pause, Zara would push forward. Yet somehow, they fit. They shared food, secrets, dreams, and fears. When Nola cried, Zara fought. When Zara was angry, Nola calmed her down. Their mothers joked that they were raising one child in two bodies. As they grew older, their differences became clearer. Nola dreamed of peace. A small home. A loving husband. Warm meals. Children laughing in the background. She believed happiness was quiet and steady. Zara wanted more. She wanted money. Attention. Big houses and shining cars. She wanted people to look at her twice. She believed happiness was loud and visible. Still, they promised each other something that felt unbreakable. No matter what happens, Zara once said, sitting on a broken fence under the evening sky, we will never turn against each other. Nola smiled and nodded. She believed promises lasted forever. Life moved on. After secondary school, reality hit hard. Makoro district was not kind to dreamers. Jobs were scarce. Hope was expensive. But Nola refused to give up. She learned how to cook better. She practiced late into the night. She borrowed money and started a small food business. Nothing fancy. Just good food and honest effort. Zara chased a different path. She dressed well even when money was tight. She attended gatherings where rich people showed up. She spoke big. She dreamed bigger. Sometimes she borrowed clothes. Sometimes she borrowed confidence. She believed one connection could change her life. They still talked. Still laughed. Still shared stories late at night. But something invisible had begun to grow between them. Not hatred. Not yet. Just distance. Then Damian Cole walked into Nola's life. He came to her food stand one afternoon in Eldora City, dressed simply but carrying quiet authority. He complimented her cooking. Paid without arguing. Returned the next day. Then the next. Damian was calm. Polite. Respectful. He listened when Nola spoke. He remembered small details. He asked about her dreams, not just her food. To Nola, he felt safe. To Zara, when she finally met him, he felt impressive. Damian was wealthy. Not flashy, but powerful. He owned properties. Businesses. Cars that never made noise. When he shook hands, people straightened up. When he spoke, people listened. Zara noticed everything. She watched the way he looked at Nola. Soft. Focused. Like the world paused when Nola spoke. Zara told herself she was happy for her friend. And at first, she truly was. When Damian proposed, he did it properly. In public. With respect. With confidence. He promised to protect Nola. To provide. To love her. Nola cried. Zara clapped the loudest. The wedding was big. Bigger than anything Makoro district had seen. Eldora city buzzed with the news. People admired Nola's luck. Some envied it. Some questioned it. Zara stood beside her as the maid of honor, smiling so hard her cheeks hurt. That night, as music played and laughter filled the air, Zara looked around the hall. The lights. The expensive clothes. The powerful guest. And something shifted quietly inside her. Marriage changed everything. Nola moved into the Cole estate, a mansion that felt like another world. Clean floors. Silent walls. Rooms that echoed when you spoke. At first, she felt lucky. Grateful. Blessed. Then Damian started coming home late. Then he started drinking. Then his silence became heavy. The first time he hit her, he cried afterward. But her gift. Promised it would never happen again. Nola believed him. She wanted to believe him. She hid the bruises. Hid the tears. Hid the fear. When Zara visited, Nola smiled. Served food. Gave house tours. Zara admired everything. The house. The clothes. The life. She did not see the pain behind Nola's eyes. And Nola did not tell her. Why would she? Who would understand? Zara left each visit with a tight chest and restless thoughts. She compared her own life to Nola's and felt cheated. She told herself Nola was lucky. Ungrateful even. If I had this life, Zara once muttered to herself, I would never complain. She did not know the cost. One evening, Zara stayed late at the mansion. Damian was around. Drinking. Watching. His eyes followed Zara for a moment longer than usual. Or so she thought. That moment planted a dangerous idea. Zara dressed better for her next visit. Spoke softer. Laughed more. She complimented Damian. Tested boundaries carefully. Damian noticed. Not with desire. With mild amusement. To Zara, his indifference felt like rejection. And rejection felt like insult. Slowly, admiration turned into obsession. She began to believe Nola was sitting on a throne she did not deserve. And somewhere in the shadows of Eldora City, Zara heard whispers. Whispers of a man who could bend destiny. A man who could bind hearts. A man who never won twice. Zara tried to ignore the thoughts. She told herself they were harmless. Just passing ideas. Nothing serious. But the more she visited the Cole estate, the harder it became to silence them. The house was too big. Too beautiful. It smelled of money and power. Zara imagined herself walking through the halls every morning. Imagined her clothes hanging neatly in the large wardrobe. Imagined her name attached to the estate. And then she would look at Nola. Nola moved like someone carrying weight. Her smiles came late. Her laughter felt forced. She flinched at sudden sounds. Zara noticed these things but chose not to ask questions. Asking questions would break the illusion. And Zara was not ready for that. One afternoon, as Nola served tea, Zara noticed a faint mark on her wrist. Purple. Fresh. What happened there? Zara asked lightly. Nola froze for a second. Then she smiled. I hit it on the door. Zara nodded. She did not press further. Deep down, something uncomfortable stirred. But envy drowned it. Damien changed too. He no longer pretended around Zara. He spoke bluntly. Sometimes harshly. He barely acknowledged her presence. That hurt more than she expected. Zara had imagined something else. A spark. A secret understanding. Instead, she felt invisible. That invisibility burned. She began to stay longer during visits. Asked questions about Damien's businesses. Praised his achievements. Touched his arm briefly when she laughed. Damien noticed. He said nothing. One evening, after Nola left the room, Zara leaned closer to Damien. You're a good man, she said softly. Nola is lucky. Damien looked at her. His eyes were cold. Measuring. Luck has nothing to do with marriage, he replied. The words cut deeper than any insult. Zara laughed awkwardly and stood up. That night, she went home angry. Not at Damien. Not at Nola. At fate. Meanwhile, Nola's life was breaking apart quietly. The gifts Damien brought after the violence stopped arriving. The apologies became rare. The anger became constant. He controlled what she wore. Who she spoke to. Where she went. Sometimes, she slept on the floor. Sometimes, she locked herself in the bathroom just to breathe. She thought of telling Zara many times. But shame sealed her lips. And fear convinced her that no one would believe her. From the outside, Nola still had everything. Zara's restlessness grew. She started asking questions in secret. About spiritual men. About rituals. About destiny and redirection. People whispered names. Most warned her to stay away. One name came up repeatedly. Baba Ikena. An old man who lived on the edge of the city. Known for rituals that worked but never ended well. They said he never begged clients to return. Because once was enough. Zara hesitated. For days. For weeks. Until the night Damien hosted a small party. Guests filled the mansion. Music played. Glasses clinked. Nola stood quietly beside Damien, her smile tight, her eyes empty. Zara watched from across the room. At one point, Damien snapped at Nola in front of everyone. Just a few words. Sharp. Humiliating. Nola lowered her head. No one said anything. Zara felt something twist inside her. Not pity. Not anger. Possession. She doesn't deserve him, Zara thought. That night, she made a decision. Finding Baba Ikena was not difficult once she decided to look. His compound was silent. Surrounded by tall trees. No signboard. No welcome. Zara felt a chill as she stepped inside. Baba Ikena looked older than time. His eyes were clear. Too clear. He studied Zara without asking her name. You want what belongs to another, he said calmly. Zara's heart raced. I want what is meant for me. He shook his head slowly. Those are never the same thing. She explained anyway. The love. The injustice. The life wasted on someone who did not value it. Baba Ikena listened. When she finished, he spoke carefully. I can bind a man's heart. But I cannot change who he is. If you tie yourself to darkness, you will share its pain. Zara swallowed. I'm not afraid. He stared at her for a long moment. Should be. She insisted. He warned her again. She refused to listen. Finally, he agreed. But not without a price. The ritual took place at night. Candles. Sea. Chants. Blood. Water from Omi River. Zara's hands shook as Baba Ikena walked. He asked her one final time if she wished to continue. Yes, she said without hesitation. The air felt heavy. The silence loud. When it was done, Baba Ikena gave her a small object wrapped in cloth. This binds you, he said. As long as it remains where it is, the bond stands. Zara left feeling powerful. Victorious. She believed she had won. The change happened quickly. Damien became distant toward Nola. Then cold. Then cruel. He accused her of things she did not understand. He shouted. Threw her belongings out. One morning, he told her to leave. No explanation. No discussion. Nola stood at the gate of the coal estate with a small bag and a broken heart. Zara watched from afar. Her hands trembled. Not with fear. With excitement. Zara returned to the coal estate like someone walking into a grave. Nothing had changed. The gate still opened smoothly. The floors still shined. The silence still pressed down on her chest. Damien did not ask where she had been. He did not need to. He simply looked at her and said, "You don't leave again." Zara nodded. She had no strength left to resist. Life inside the mansion became smaller. Zara learned how to move carefully. How to speak only when spoken to. How to read Damien's moods by the sound of his footsteps. Some days he ignored her completely. Some days he reminded her she belonged to him. There were no witnesses behind closed doors. And no escape. While Zara suffered in silence, Nola was slowly rebuilding her life. Back in Makoro district, she reopened her food business. It was smaller now. The pots were old. The space was tight. But it was hers. She cooked with peace. She slept without fear. She laughed again. People noticed the change. She looks lighter, someone said. She glows, another added. Nola did not glow because life was perfect. She glowed because she was free. Zara watched Nola from a distance. She saw customers line up at the food stand. She saw Nola smile. Laugh. Live. Jealousy returned briefly. But it died quickly. Now it was regret. One evening, Damien announced a large party. This time, he said coldly, "You will entertain." Zara's heart sank. She dressed carefully. Covered her bruises. Painted a smile on her face. Guests arrived. Music played. Drinks flowed. Damien drank heavily. As the night went on, he humiliated Zara openly. Corrected her. Insulted her family. Mocked her past. Laughter followed. Zara stood there, hands shaking, eyes burning. No one helped. No one stopped him. The walls washed. Later that night, Damien pushed her hard. She hit the floor. The room spun. Zara lay there staring at the ceiling she once admired so much. This was the life she had begged for. The next morning, Zara woke up sick. Her body ached. Her head pounded. Something was wrong. Days passed. Then weeks. She realized she was pregnant. Fear replaced everything. She told Damien carefully. He laughed. "You think that changes anything," he said. It did not. Zara returned to Baba Ikena one final time. She looked hollow. I can't do this anymore, she whispered. Baba Ikena shook his head sadly. The river does not return what it is given easily. Zara knew what that meant. She was bound. One night, Zara stood by the mansion window, staring at the moon. She thought of Makoro district. Of barefoot girls. Of broken fences. Of promises made under open skies. She whispered Nola's name. Too late. The mansion felt colder than ever. Zara moved through the halls like a shadow. Once, she had admired the high ceilings, the chandeliers, the soft carpets. Now, they were nothing more than walls of a cage. Every step reminded her of her choices. Every mirror reminded her of her mistakes. Every laugh from Damien reminded her that she had begged for this life and lost herself in the process. The party that night was grand. Business people. Friends. Investors. Cameras. Phones. Damien stood at the center like a king, Zara at his side like a ghost. He humiliated her in front of everyone. Corrected her tone. Mocked her attempts to serve drinks elegantly. Laughed when she dropped a glass. The crowd noticed. Some whispered. Most looked away. No one helped. Zara's cheeks burned. She tried to smile. Failed. Her hands shook. Her stomach hurt. The child inside her kicked, as if warning her. But she could not escape. Not now. After the party, Damien took her to the study. He spoke calmly. Do you understand now? He asked. Zara swallowed. Yes. You are mine. Forever. Until the river takes it back. Until the spell ends. Until I say otherwise. She nodded. Words felt useless. That night, she looked out at the moonlit gardens. Everything she had desired, wealth, power, status, had become a prison. She whispered Nola's name. Peace. She had never felt it. Not until she saw it in Nola again. Meanwhile, Nola's life bloomed quietly. Her food business had customers lining up daily. Children laughed nearby. Neighbors greeted her warmly. She spent evenings cleaning her small home, cooking meals, resting her body and mind. She smiled without fear. Slept without tension. Laughed without worry. Wealth had returned to her, not in coins or cars, but in freedom. In peace. In dignity. Back in the mansion, Zara's reflection in the mirror startled her. Thin face. Dark eyes. Bruised lips. Hair falling in disarray. Once she would have fixed every detail. Now she only stared. The illusion of glamour had vanished. The golden cage had trapped her. One morning, Damien called for a meeting with his friends and colleagues. Zara stood silently beside him. Damien told a story about a woman who had tried to leave him. Zara's face burned as everyone laughed. She realized she had become a warning, a spectacle, a living example of envy punished. Her pride, ambition, and desire, all crushed. Her body ached. Her spirit ached worse. Zara thought of Makoro district. Of Nola. Of the small home. The laughter. The freedom. She cried quietly, but Damien did not notice. Days passed in monotony. Abuse. Silence. Fear. Orders. Humiliation. Zara walked the halls, fed by servants, watched by Damien, trapped by her own choices. Every dream she had chased had been poisoned. The life she had begged for had become a nightmare. Meanwhile, Nola started training other women in cooking and business. She shared her story quietly with those who asked. She laughed. She cried. She healed. Peace radiated from her. Zara realized that her envy had not just taken Nola's life. It had destroyed hers. And the worst part, she could do nothing to undo it. The river had refused her. Baba Ikena had refused her. Damien had refused her. She was alone. Trapped. In a mansion full of gold and pain. One evening, she knelt by her window, staring at the moon. She whispered to herself. I wanted this. I thought I could have it. Now I understand. The mansion felt silent in a way that made Zora's chest ache. She moved from room to room, each echo of her footsteps a reminder of what she had done. Every corner she had once admired now seemed to watch her with judgment. She had wealth. She had status. She had power. And yet, she had nothing. Meanwhile, in Makoro district, Nola worked in her small kitchen. Steam rose from a pot of soup. The smell of spices filled the air. Children laughed outside. Neighbors stopped to greet her. She smiled freely, without thought of fear or expectation. She had lost luxury, yes. She had left the mansion behind. But she had gained something far greater, peace. Zara sometimes thought of Nola during the day. She imagined Nola walking through the streets, laughing with friends, living a life that was small but whole. She remembered the promises they had made as girls. The one about never turning against each other. Those promises had been broken, not by Nola, but by herself. Damien continued to assert his control. Every party. Every dinner. Every glance he gave reminded her she belonged to him. He was cruel, unpredictable, and unrelenting. Once, a guest asked her a question about her own life. Damien interrupted with a cold laugh. She belongs to me, he said. Her life is mine to dictate. The guest nodded politely, eyes wide, and moved on. Zara wanted to speak, to defend herself, to run. But she knew she could not. The golden walls that had once inspired or now felt like chains. She had tried once to escape. She had risked her body and her life in the river, hoping to undo the spell that bound Damien to her. But the river had refused her. The river had reminded her that some choices could not be undone. Baba Ikena's warning echoed in her mind, those who bind their hearts with envy will share darkness forever. Now she understood. One evening, she stood by the window and looked at the moon. She thought of Nola. She thought of Makoro district. She thought of freedom. And she realized, painfully, that happiness cannot be stolen. It cannot be forced. It is earned. And she had tried to steal it, and failed. Meanwhile, Nola walked home through the streets after closing her small food shop. She carried a basket of leftovers for her neighbor's children. A young girl ran to her and hugged her legs. Thank you, Nola, she said. Nola smiled. Her heart felt light. No wealth. No mansion. No extravagant dresses. Just peace. Just freedom. Just life. Back in the mansion, Zara held her stomach and whispered to her unborn child. I'm sorry, she said. The child kicked. Her tears fell quietly. She had gold, yes, but gold had no warmth. Luxury had no love. Status had no kindness. She was trapped, alone, and powerless. The contrast could not have been could not have been sharper. Nola lived small, free, happy. Zara lived large, trapped, empty. In the weeks that followed, Damien's control never wavered. Zara obeyed. She served. She smiled when she was told. She stood silently during insults. Every day reminded her of her choices. Every day reminded her that envy had a price. And she had paid it fully. Nola, in Makoro district, healed completely. She laughed again. She worked again. She trusted again. And every now and then, she thought of Zara. She forgave her fully, but she knew one truth. Some betrayals could never be forgotten. Some wounds were permanent. But peace could always be found. Zara sometimes whispered Nola's name in the dead of night. Why her, she asked. Why not me? The answer was clear. It was never hers to take. It never would have been. And now, it never could be. The mansion glimmered in the moonlight, its walls shining, its doors locked, its halls echoing with Zora's quiet sobs. The life she had wanted, the envy, the power, the glamour, had become a gilded cage. Meanwhile, a small home in Makoro district glowed softly in the same moonlight, warm, quiet, and full of life. True wealth, Nola knew, was not counted in gold. It counted in peace, in freedom, in love. And so the story ended. One friend healed, one friend broken. One life modest, full of meaning. One life grand, full of suffering. A warning to all who watched. Do not envy what you cannot earn. Do not steal what is not yours. True peace is more valuable than any treasure. Moral takeaway for viewers. Envy destroys. Luxury does not guarantee happiness. Forgiveness heals, but some betrayals leave permanent scars. Peace is true wealth. Thanks for watching. And please kindly hit on the subscribe button for more. And let us know in the comment section your thoughts about betrayal.